Greed and love. What different associations each of these ideas evoke, and yet it might be the same impulse twice named. This is how Nietzsche opens up a paragraph on the subject of love. In Nietzsche's philosophy, many human emotions, our desires, our religious beliefs, our artistic aspirations, even our desire to do philosophy and to gain more knowledge, are exposed as different forms of what Nietzsche called the will to power, including so-called romantic love. You might think that love, especially the romantic love we're presented with in popular culture, might have something to do with self-sacrifice, with selflessness, with putting someone else's needs before our own. Love as the opposite of egoism. But Nietzsche says that's wrong, and in this video we'll explore why that is, and discover what a lover and a dragon have in common. So strap in, grab yourself some coffee, black of course, and let's explore the psychology of love from a Nietzschean perspective. Nietzsche has references to love scattered throughout all of his works, but the most sustained treatment of the subject is found in The Joyful Science, in the paragraph that we just quoted at the start of the video. So let's take a closer look. He says that love and greed, despite their very different associations, might actually refer to one and the same impulse in the human psyche. This is the period in Nietzsche's philosophy where he's very interested in the idea of drives, impulses, desires, and how they shape our behavior and our culture. He will later more explicitly argue that every drive is fundamentally one and the same, that it's the will to power in various different forms. But in this book, The Joyful Science, he seems more open to the possibility that every human being is the battlefield of many different competing drives. Your personality, then, is determined by which of those drives have the upper hand in your particular psyche. But we can already start to see how Nietzsche's idea that everything is will to power is starting to take shape here, when he proposes that maybe these two different forces, greed and love, might actually be one and the same. They are both about power. It's obvious how greed relates to power and egoism. All that remains for Nietzsche is to show how love relates to these things. Let's take a closer look. By the way, these videos take a while to make, and without the support of our Patreons, it would be impossible to keep the channel alive. So if you enjoy the work that we do, while also getting access to exclusive material, take a look over at our Patreon page and join us. Right now, there's a Patreon exclusive video on Nietzsche and love that might be too spicy for YouTube, so if you like this video, you'll definitely like the Patreon one. Thank you. Back to the video. How does love relate to power? Just like greed, love for Nietzsche is about possession. The love of the sexes, however, betrays itself most plainly as the striving after possession. The lover wants the unconditioned, sole possession of the person longed for by him. He wants just as absolute power over her soul as over her body. Nietzsche may use provocative phrasing, but this idea is actually not that controversial. There is no shortage of love songs in modern culture that speak of love in terms of possession. Even the simple phrase, "I want you," betrays this connection. And we want our lover to be ours alone. We don't want to share. The phrase absolute power over her soul is interesting too, of course, because there's an element of reciprocity introduced right now. Not only do we want to possess our lover for ourselves, we also want to be the only one who is desired by our lover. It's not a one-way street. We want her, and she wants us, and only us, no one else. In other words, it's not enough that we are loved. We want to be uniquely loved. He wants to be loved solely and to dwell and rule in the other's soul as what is highest and most to be desired. This is not really a groundbreaking insight either, but Nietzsche goes on to investigate the implications. He starts to talk about dragons. One considers that this means precisely to exclude all the world from a precious possession, a happiness and an enjoyment, one considers that the lover has in view the impoverishment and privation of all other rivals, and would like to become the dragon of his golden horde, as the most inconsiderate and selfish of all conquerors and exploiters. One considers, finally, that to the lover himself, the whole world besides appears indifferent, colorless, and worthless, and that he is ready to make every sacrifice, disturb every arrangement, and put every other interest behind his own. The lover is like a dragon protecting his mountain of gold, unwilling to share, and totally, completely obsessed with it, to the point that all other pleasures of the world appear shallow and worthless. Nietzsche mentions the dragon guarding his hoard in passing, but it's worthwhile to take a moment and flesh out the metaphor in more detail. The dragon guarding a treasure is a common trope in German folklore, but if you know a bit about Nietzsche, you know Richard Wagner is never far away. In Wagner's major four-part opera cycle, The Ring of the Nibelung, Fafner is a dragon who comes into possession of the ring, a magical artifact that grants its possessor ultimate power. He even attains the power of shapeshifting to turn his body into whatever form he pleases. Now, what does Fafner choose to do with this unlimited power? The possibilities are literally endless. Yet, through the corrupting influence of the ring, his new life as the ring's owner is far from glamorous. He doesn't conquer the world. He doesn't use his power to gain knowledge. He doesn't use his shape-shifting abilities to fly through the sky and to explore the universe. He turns himself into a fearsome dragon and then retreats into a cave where he guards over the ring and vast quantities of gold. He becomes paranoid, scared to lose the ring, scared to lose the gold, and so he doesn't actually use his powers. But he locks himself away deep within a cave in the forest, and he spends his days simply sitting there, always guarding the gold, always afraid to lose it. There are two elements here to consider as it relates to love. The first is that love has this totalizing quality to it. We all know the cliché of the lover who sees his beloved everywhere, in the formations of clouds, in his dreams, in the faces of random people in the street. You lose your appetite, you can't sleep anymore. The object of our love becomes the most important thing in the world, and everything else loses its magic. That is exactly what happens to Fafner. He becomes obsessed with hoarding his wealth, and in doing so, he neglects everything else. The gold becomes his world, and in seeking possession of it, he wants to exercise his power and satisfy his ego. Because this leads into the second element. Fafner the dragon doesn't want to share. He is literally sitting on a mountain of gold. But it's his gold, and no one else's. Those who try get burned. This is also a common motif in love. We don't want to share our beloved. They're ours alone. It's not enough that we possess the gold. It's that no one else should have it. The lover has in view the impoverishment and privation of all other rivals. This is the great cruelty that lies at the heart of love. We desire something for ourselves and for ourselves alone. And would be very happy if we could become so secure of our possession so as to be completely sure that no one else will have a share in it. And to that end, we will defend what we have and destroy our rivals. So in this analysis, love is unmasked by Nietzsche as being the opposite of this self-sacrificial, sweet, innocent little thing. Love is about possession, about destroying your rivals, about taking something for yourself and denying it to others, like the dragon guarding his treasure. Love is one of the most violent, intense emotions humans can feel. And deep down, we all recognize this. We say love is a battlefield. We say all is fair in love and war. Some systems of law even have special provisions for so-called crimes of passion. Like the dragon guarding his hoard, love has something monstrous about it. In other words, love is about power and ego. That's why Nietzsche is so surprised that love, this violent, aggressive thing, nevertheless has such a strange reputation in our culture. One is verily surprised that this ferocious lust of property and injustice of sexual love should have been glorified and deified to such an extent at all times. Yeah, that out of this love, the conception of love as the antithesis of egoism should have been derived, when it is perhaps precisely the most unqualified expression of egoism. This is the real mystery behind the romantic glorification of love as this altruistic, self-sacrificial, ultimate good. We can readily admit that Nietzsche hasn't really said anything new. After all, we all know the feelings associated with love. There is an element of possession, an element of egoism, jealousy, obsession even. Even if it's not something we like to admit, not even to ourselves, we do realize deep down that love can make us do terrible things, and that it is a primal, intense desire that has some measure of cruelty in it. But what is indeed so striking is how in our culture, this thing called love, that Nietzsche unmasks as mired in the base desire for property and power, came to be associated with all these things that we normally associate with the opposite of things like power and lust for property. Just how did this happen? To answer that question, we must go one level deeper into Nietzsche's philosophy. The reason for this paradox lies in the fact that love, as a value, as a thing to be chased and desired, has undergone a transvaluation. To explain what that is and how it works exactly, we need to take a broader view for a bit and talk about Nietzsche's genealogy of morals. In this book, Nietzsche asks himself the question of where our values come from, specifically the broad categories of good and evil. How did they come to be? How did we start using them? And, more importantly, who started to use them? The central thesis of the work is the idea that there exist two types of morality. There is master morality, and opposed to it is slave morality. We're going to oversimplify quite a bit here to keep the video more concise, but if you're interested in this, we've done a full 1-hour video analysis of the genealogy, and there's a link in the description for you to enjoy. Master morality stands on its own two legs, and it requires no further justification. It's the morality of the powerful in society. They enjoy life on its own merits, including the exercise of their power. They conquered, ate good food, attained wealth, engaged in competition of all different kinds, and enjoyed the pleasures of love. All these things they simply started calling good. But the existence of the powerful implies the existence of the powerless. They are those in society who, for one reason or another, didn't have access to these good things. And since all humans desire power, this creates in the powerless a desire for revenge, to take the power back. In their view, it's unfair that one group in society, the strong, get to enjoy all these things while they have to go without them. This desire for revenge from the powerless is what Nietzsche calls ressentiment. Unfortunately for them, though, because they are powerless, they are incapable of exacting this revenge in the real world. The solution, then, is to have their revenge in some kind of imaginary world. They start to invert the values of the masters and the powerful and turn them on their head. A transvaluation of values occurs. It's at this moment, when the ressentiment of the slaves starts to give birth to new values, that the slave revolt in morals begins. The most obvious example of this is the simple inversion of the master values. So, if the powerful enjoy wealth and good food, then the corresponding inverted slave value is the opposite. They start to call having wealth evil, they valorize poverty, and abstaining from food becomes a holy practice, fasting. And it's in this process of transvaluation that we see how the conception of love undergoes a transformation. To keep things clear, let's use some Greek words for different kinds of love. We see how love goes from Eros, the strong sexual magnetism, you can call it lust, and transforms into Agape, the more platonic conception of love that is more equal in nature, love for your neighbor, love as an abstract concept. More importantly, a type of love that anyone can obtain, not just the lucky few. When something is abstract, when it's more of an idea than a flesh and blood reality, it becomes more attainable. It's a matter of internal attitude, not external possession. It requires no one else to play along. You can reach it completely by yourself. Agape is for everyone. Eros is only for those who are desired by others. We can put these terms on a spectrum of love, with the one extreme being Eros, the natural sexual coupling of man and woman, and Agape being the other side of the spectrum, this newly created conception of love that was born from slavish ressentiment. You will notice that the highest aspiration of many religions is chastity. Catholic priests cannot marry or have sex. Christians are urged to have only one sexual partner, their spouse, and to wait until marriage. We are now on the right-hand side of the spectrum, whereas the side of Eros, at its most extreme, is typified by something like a barbarian, a conqueror, the warlord. Let's say someone like Genghis Khan. There can be only one Genghis Khan, but everyone can be chaste. By redefining love in this way, by transvaluing it, the slaves can now feel like they have access to love as well. Something that was initially denied to them. Through the creation of new values, or rather by transforming the existing value, is now available to them. This is how the slaves exercise their brand of power. But the salient point is that for Nietzsche, the slave revolt in morals, this parallel constructed world of inverted values, the weak rebelling against the strong, has been a resounding success. There are many reasons for this, which we won't get into, but suffice to say that slaves have been the ones to put their stamp on culture and history. Love as Agape has won a lot of ground over the strictly Eros kind of love. Ideas, valuations, conceptions of the right-hand side of the spectrum have crept over towards the left-hand side. This is where the confusion comes from, and how these two conceptions of love, Eros and Agape, are subsumed under one word, love, that now, paradoxically, holds within itself these two strange, opposed worlds of conceptual association. It's like in the modern Western world, we have these two worlds that have collided. There is the earthly world of base human desires and instincts, the cruelty of love, the desire to see other suitors fail, to possess your lover completely, to guard her from rivals, the egoism of wanting her for yourself. And then, on the other hand, there is the heavenly world, tacked on top of it, this constructed world of values, where love is this angelic thing. It's about self-sacrifice, it's about pedestalizing your lover, almost deifying her, like Dante did to Beatrice. What Nietzsche did was to expose this outer layer as the result of a slave revolt in morals and strip away the veil thrown over our eyes by a culture that has been formed and created by victorious slaves, to reveal the dark and hidden real world underneath, filled with cruelty, egoism, and barbarism, will to power and nothing besides. The reality of love is that it's a cruel, animalistic thing, enjoyed only by a few powerful enough to impose their will on the world in order to go get it. In order to cope with not being able to do so, the weak invented a new kind of love, one that requires no power, so that the powerless may also enjoy its fruits. To finally return to the paragraph that we've been discussing all video. Here, evidently, the non-possessors and desirers have determined the usage of language. There were, of course, always too many of them. This is the slave revolt in morals. The weak, because they always outnumber the strong, and through clever rhetorical tricks, have turned love from Eros to Agape. But vestiges of the true nature of love, as something subterranean, demonic, violent, have always remained. Take, for example, Sophocles, who famously called love a raging demon in Plato's Symposium, who was glad, in old age, to finally be rid of it. Those who have been favored with much possession and satiety have, to be sure, dropped a word now and then about the raging demon, as, for instance, the most lovable and most beloved of all the Athenians, Sophocles. But Eros always laughed at such revilers. They were always his greatest favorites. Those who have enjoyed the pleasures of Eros to the fullest extent, they alone know something about the true nature of love. And Nietzsche says here, with a wink, that they see what Nietzsche also saw, that real love, true love, has something demonic in it, something cruel, something to do with power. In short, that true love is selfish. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'm working on another video where I dissect one of Nietzsche's most famous quotes. What is done out of love always takes place beyond good and evil, in very great detail. So stick around for that one and turn on notifications, please. As always, these videos would be impossible without the generous support of our patrons. We release exclusive content on Patreon, and I'm also working on a video about Eros and Psyche, the famous sculpture by Canova that will be a Patreon exclusive. Check it out if you're interested and if you want to support us. Existing patrons are on screen right now, and I thank you humbly for your support. For more Nietzsche, check out our full analysis of the genealogy of morals, and if the will to power specifically is of interest to you, check out our analysis on that elusive concept of Nietzsche's. With that said, thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.